Okay, so you've given us a stack of sources, all focused on, well, a really interesting question. How can Pakistan move towards becoming a destination known for quality tourism?
Exactly. And the thread running through all this material is Pakistan has this incredible potential, natural and cultural,
Right.
but actually realizing that for, the global market,
Mm.
for foreign travelers looking for something high standard, enriching, safe, that's what these sources are calling quality tourism. It
Mm.
needs a real focus, a strategy.
Yeah, it's not just about getting more tourists in, it's about the kind of experience they have, the depth, the standards of this deep dive. It's really about unpacking what these sources lay out. What's the
Mhm.
current situation? What's the raw potential we're talking about? What are the specific things holding back that quality aspect? And crucially, what's the proposed way forward?
And who are they actually trying to attract with this quality
Mm.
focus? Which kind of traveler?
Good point. So, what makes Pakistan a place people already find compelling, and what are those key friction points the sources identify that stop it from being consistently premium? Let's get into it.
Well, the first thing that jumps out from these sources is just the sheer, almost kind of overwhelming range of assets. It's not like it relies on just one single thing.
That struck me too. They really emphasize the natural beauty first, talking about the northern areas, having some of the planet's highest peaks, K2, Nanga Parbat, the whole Karakoram range,
Yeah.
basically.
And they call out specific valleys, too, describing them as internationally praised. Places like Hunza, Skardu, Swat, Fairy Meadows, spots that already have a reputation for just, wow, stunning scenery.
But then you can pivot completely, right? Within the same country, you've got the Thar Desert or the Makran coastline down south. It's just vast geographical variety.
And that's just nature. The sources then really dig into the layers of culture and history, deep layers. We're talking ancient civilizations.
Yes.
Mohenjo-Daro, Indus Valley, Taxila from the Gandhara period. These aren't just ruins. They're globally significant sites.
Absolutely. And then there's the architectural side, the grandeur of Islamic sites like Pachahi Mosque, Lahore Fort, Shah Jahan Mosque, and Dada. Plus, that distinct layer of colonial history you see in places like Murray, those old British buildings and stations.
And with all this incredible natural and cultural backdrop, it naturally opens up possibilities for adventure tourism. The sources detail this quite a bit.
Like what specifically?
Well, world-class trekking, mountaineering, obviously,
Wow.
but also paragliding, rafting, skiing. They mentioned Malam Jaba specifically for skiing, and even things like motorbike, touring through these really dramatic landscapes.
Mm.
Big potential there.
And there's one more thing, maybe less tangible, but the sources really stress it. The hospitality.
Ah,
It comes up again and again as a major plus point.
yeah.
Visitors often feel genuinely welcomed, treated with real respect and generosity by local people.
And it's interesting how the sources present all this. It's not just a checklist. It's framed as the fundamental reason why there's potential in the first place. You've got something for so many different types of travelers baked right in.
Okay, so that's the amazing raw material, the foundation. But what about momentum? Are things already moving? The sources do point to some positive changes and existing opportunities.
They do. They highlight recent visa reforms as, well, a pretty big deal, making travel easier with e-visas, visa on arrival for quite a few countries. That tackles a known barrier head on.
Which is just a practical necessity, isn't it, for any kind of tourism growth, let alone aiming for quality. Makes it easier to actually get there.
Definitely. And, crucially, the sources also state that the security situation has significantly improved in recent years. That's fundamental if you want to attract foreign visitors who, prioritize safety above almost everything.
And perception matters hugely these days. The sources mention the impact of digital promotion, how influencers and vloggers are helping sort of reshape the global image, showing a different side online.
Absolutely. Plus, there's the built-in credibility that comes from having UNESCO World Heritage Sites that gives those cultural spots international recognition, signals their importance.
Okay, so these feel like important groundwork steps, things that create a bit of momentum and open up possibilities building on those assets we just talked about.
They certainly do. But, and this is where the analysis in the sources really shifts gears, they then focus hard on the challenges. What are the specific obstacles stopping Pakistan from delivering that high-quality experience consistently, despite the potential, despite those initial steps?
Right, this is the core issue, isn't it? The gap between what could be and what often is, and the sources point straight at infrastructure gaps.
Yes, and they get quite specific. Things like poor road conditions in some really key tourist areas, inadequate public facilities, clean rest stops, clear signage. And a definite shortage of international standard accommodation, especially once you get to the more remote regions, which are often the most spectacular.
Which hits comfort, safety, accessibility all at once, doesn't it? If the journey is a nightmare, the place you stay isn't up to scratch, it really undermines that high standard idea of quality tourism.
It fundamentally shapes the whole visitor experience. Another big challenge highlighted is the lack of trained personnel.
How so?
Well, the sources mention limited numbers of English-speaking guides, for instance, and a broader need for professional training right across the hospitality sector: hotels, tour operators, even drivers, people who interact directly with tourists.
Yeah, communication and service quality are just massive for international travelers. If you can't communicate easily or the service feels unprofessional or inconsistent, it really detracts from the enriching part and the overall standard.
Then you have significant environmental concerns flagged up. Over-tourism in fragile ecosystems is a real risk. Hunza during peak season is mentioned specifically as an example. And also just a general lack of effective waste management in scenic spots.
Which hits hard, doesn't it? It spoils the enriching experience. Nobody wants to see litter everywhere in a beautiful landscape. And it undermines sustainability, which is increasingly vital for quality travelers. A trip doesn't feel high quality if it's visibly damaging the place.
Exactly. And finally, there's the aspect of cultural sensitivity. The sources mention that tourists sometimes need better guidance on local customs to avoid causing offense unintentionally. And conversely, some local communities aren't yet fully accustomed to the diverse behaviors international visitors might bring.
So, putting it all together, these challenges aren't just minor annoyances. They seem to actively chip away at the core things these sources define as quality tourism. Safety, enrichment, high standards, they create real friction.
And it raises that implicit question in the sources. How can you offer a reliably high-quality experience when these fundamental elements aren't consistently there? The argument is these gaps have to be tackled directly to close that gap between the huge potential and the sometimes inconsistent reality on the ground.
Okay, so the problems are laid out pretty clearly. What about solutions? What's the roadmap the sources suggest for actually enhancing quality tourism?
Well, they propose a kind of multi-pronged strategy. There's a really strong emphasis on eco-friendly and responsible tourism.
Makes sense.
Promoting sustainable practices, yes, but also actually implementing measures like, say, visitor limits in those really popular vulnerable spots during peak season, like they mentioned for Hunza.
So, directly tackling those environmental pressures.
Right. Then, a major focus on investing in infrastructure. The sources call for improving roads, upgrading airports, putting in better signage, proper rest stops, and boosting digital connectivity in tourist areas. They also suggest incentivizing the private sector
How?
to develop better places to stay: boutique hotels, quality lodges, things that meet international expectations, especially outside the main cities.
Okay, so fixing those physical and service deficits we talked about.
Then there's training and standards. This is seen as crucial. The sources recommend setting up certified training programs for everyone involved: guides, drivers, hotel staff, and also implementing some kind of quality control for tourism businesses.
Right, building up the human element, ensuring a baseline of professionalism and service quality.
Marketing and branding is another piece. The idea is to develop a strong, consistent national tourism brand. They float Visit Pakistan 2025 as an example of that kind of initiative. And really leveraging social media and collaborating with international travel influencers strategically.
Yeah, getting a clear, positive, and consistent message out there is vital.
And the final piece is about fostering cultural exchange. Things like hosting international festivals, creating programs that encourage genuine interaction between visitors and locals, maybe promoting homestays for a deeper, more authentic feel.
It really sounds like these recommendations are designed to be interconnected. Each part supports the others, and they seem to directly address those challenges identified earlier. It's not just building roads, it's training people, protecting nature, managing perceptions.
Precisely. It's presented as needing an integrated approach. You can't just fix one bit in isolation.
And thinking about who this is all for. Who are the ideal tourists for this enhanced experience? The sources touch on that too, right? The types of travelers best suited to what Pakistan offers.
They do, yeah. They sort of profile them based on the country's core strengths. Adventure seekers are obvious. Climbers, trekkers, bikers drawn to the mountains and rugged terrain.
Total sense given the landscape.
Then history buffs. People fascinated by those ancient civilizations, the historical sites. Think archaeologists, students, or just anyone really into history.
With sites like Mohenjo-Daro and Taxila, that's a clear draw.
Nature lovers too. Photographers wanting to capture the dramatic scenery, campers, bird watchers, the natural diversity caters to,
From the highest peaks to the coastlines, yeah. Lots to see.
and also spiritual travelers. People interested in exploring the rich Sufi traditions or the Buddhist heritage or other ancient spiritual connections within the region.
So the underlying message from the sources seems to be Pakistan doesn't need to be everything to everyone. It should focus on refining its unique offerings for these specific groups who are naturally drawn to its assets.
Exactly. Play to your strengths.
And the strategy is about delivering a truly quality experience specifically tailored for them.
That's the core idea presented in the sources. It's about strategic focus around those strengths.
Okay, so pulling all this together from what the sources conclude, Pakistan clearly has this immense, almost untapped potential to be a genuinely high-quality, world-class tourism destination.
It absolutely does. But the sources are very emphatic that getting there means navigating a really complex, quite delicate balancing act.
What's the core tension there?
Well, they highlight a few key balances. First, balancing accessibility with sustainability. Making it easier for people to come, sure, but doing it in a way that doesn't wreck the very places they're coming to see,
Yeah.
especially the fragile ones.
Right. Avoid killing the golden goose.
Then, balancing authenticity with comfort. How do you preserve the real, genuine cultural experiences and local character while also making sure visitors have the necessary amenities, the services, the safety standards they expect internationally?
That's a tough one. Finding that sweet spot.
And finally, balancing development with preservation. Building the necessary infrastructure, the hotels, the roads for tourism to grow, but without sacrificing the unique natural beauty and the historical integrity that makes Pakistan so appealing in the first place.
These aren't simple trade-offs, are they? And the sources really frame them as the central challenge in actually implementing all those recommendations successfully.
They absolutely do. It's presented as the crux of the issue moving forward.
So considering this incredible wealth, natural and cultural, that Pakistan has, but also this really tricky balancing act the sources describe between development and preservation, accessibility and sustainability. What do you think, reflecting on all this, is maybe the single most critical thing to get right first? The one area where success is absolutely key for Pakistan to really nail quality tourism without losing what makes it unique. Something for you, the listener, to think about.